What is up, YouTube people? This is RareTotem, bringing you my next episode of Drunk Discount Guides featuring Orendi, one of my favorite Battleborn in this game. And if you've seen some of my previous videos, you'll know that she is my number 5 ranked, which I think she's still pretty much in that same kind of category after people's nerfs and stuff. Very good burst damage, very high mobility, very small hitbox, tough to see out in the field when everything's going all crazy, so you can cause some serious havoc to people. I wanted to play her for a long time, but I wanted to also make those other videos and work with some other people first, so as soon as I was done with those, I set my sights on Orendi. So let's go over some of her abilities really quick. Her passive is pretty unique and interesting. When you activate her Nullify ability, it reduces the cooldown of her Shadowfire Pillar, which is her main damage dealing ability, by 8 seconds. It has like a 15-second cooldown, something like that. So that can dramatically reduce the cooldown for using that ability, because without Shadowfire Pillar active, her damage really suffers. So looking at her skills, you have Nullify. Nullify is her jump back. It's her way to reposition herself and get out of bad situations. If you get the mutation, you can jump forward with it, but it does a burst of energy, knocks her back. It gets blind, it deals AoE damage if you get that upgrade. A lot of neat little things that you can do with this ability. The best part is being able to reduce the cooldown of Shadowfire Pillar, which is her second ability, which after a brief charge time, she deals a crap ton of burst damage all at once. Very powerful AoE damaging ability. Really good at farming and taking out creep waves, dealing massive damage to people who may be, you know, up on a sniper nest or something like that, or in an area that might be harder to reach. If they get stuck into that thing, they're going to be taking a lot of damage and have to run away. Her ultimate's Paradigm Shift, which after a couple seconds, she charges up an attack. It's basically the Shadowfire Pillar, except launching directly forward. Does about 500 damage to everything in front of her. The range on it is kind of the trickiest part to this skill, but if you ever seen the Shadowfire Pillar, how far it goes up, then that's basically how far out Paradigm Shift will go, because it's basically the same exact skill animation except horizontal instead of straight vertical. So it does have a pretty good range on it that people might not expect. And the best thing about it is that's huge AoE damage, so if a lot of enemies line up together, you can easily get double, triple, quad, maybe even a pentakill if you're lucky enough with it. Let's take a look at her Helix now so we can go over those options. Level 1, I always go with the Firewalk with Me. That gives you that little ground damage over time with your Nullify. The Shadowfire Pillar revealing cloaked enemies is kind of situational to me. I don't find it very useful, especially when you could deal more damage as Orendi. That's your main job. Go with the Trail. Next up, level 2, you have the enemies hitting by Nullify can either get pushed back or you can blind them for a second. Now the pushback is nice. You need that for a lore challenge. I get that sometimes, especially if you want to if you're actually good at pushing people into a Shadowfire Pillar behind them. However, in PvP situations, I almost always go the blind duration just because blind really screws people up. People tend to panic a lot and get themselves in bad situations when they're blinded, and it'll of course allow you to have an easier target for your Shadowfire Pillar. Level 3, you get your first mutation, the Mind Bullets, in which her secondary auto attack, which unleashes all 4 energy bolts at once, will home in on a target. The homing is kind of wonky with it. You have to kind of keep your reticle close to them when you're launching the attack. It's alright. Typically, I'll either go with the Mind Bullets if I feel like harassing someone way in the back. It's pretty good for catching people who are trying to run away from you. There have been times where I've gotten kills from people where if I didn't have the Mind Bullets activated, they would have gotten away because I couldn't rely on my auto attacks to get them by themselves. Other than that, I'll always go, Oh, That Reminds Me, which gives you your overshields charging again, or your regular shields charging again, sorry about that. After activating Nullify, I almost always go that ability on every character because every character has a shield recharge ability, and that's really good, especially in skirmishes and stuff like that. You want to stay in the fight. You want to keep your shields and your health up as often as possible. The next level we've got on her Shadowfire Pillar. This is where her damage starts to dramatically increase and you start to see her really start to take over. She's really good mid-game and late game as well. So I almost always go Preamble of Pain, in which you get 180 damage over 1.5 seconds as your Shadowfire Pillars are going off. Very good ability makes destroying creep waves that much easier. You can even get kills with the damage over time. Very strong, very, very good. If you're doing the lore challenges, go Encore so you can do 2 Shadowfire Pillars because it takes a long time to get to that 50 mark. So go Encore for that, but typically I'll always go the damage over time. The mutation here instantly detonates the Shadowfire Pillar, which is nice, but the 50% reduced damage is just too much for me. I definitely wouldn't take that on Orendi because it just gimps her too hard with that. Not worth it. Level 5 here, you got another mutation in which this is all dealing with her passive. Now, it can either reduce the cooldown effect from Nullified to Shadowfire Pillar by 4 seconds, reduces her ultimate's cooldown by 5 seconds, or activating Shadowfire Pillar reduces Nullify's cooldown. So basically what you'll do, and I'll usually go the Prognostic combo, in which your Nullify reduces your Shadowfire Pillar's cooldown, and now your Shadowfire Pillar reduces your Nullify's cooldown, so you can basically just keep chaining them over and over and over. The cooldown on the ultimate's not really noticeable. I don't really go for that. You're going to be using your Shadowfire Pillar and Nullify way more often, so I always go with that one. Alright, level 6. You've got your base damage increases for either Nullify or Shadowfire Pillar. Don't really know why anyone would go Nullify's base damage on this, because the base damage on that isn't very impressive. Go Shadowfire Pillar. That's a no-brainer. This one's a bit situational. In PvP, I almost always go with Essence Theft, which gives you 15% lifesteal. In PvP, or PvE, sometimes I'll go with the increased damage. It's really kind of depending on how you feel, and if you have healers, if your healer's really good and they're giving you heals when you need it, then you can go with the increased damage. But if you're skirmishing, you're out there on the front lines by yourself making moves and all that, this is kind of the skill that makes her such a skirmisher, is that extra lifesteal she gets, because if you get a huge wave with that Shadowfire Pillar, her health will jump all the way back up pretty much instantly. Really good for that and prolonged fighting. So that's probably one of the most situational skills that she gets. More often than not, I'll go with the increased lifesteal. Next ability, you have some cooldown time or shield pen. This is also situational. Usually I go with cooldown timers for anybody, because more cooldown time means my abilities are up, which means I can deal more damage. And with Orendi, that's the name of the game, I usually go cooldown. If they got a bunch of shields and they're bothering you, go shield pen. Level 9, you got another mutation here. Shadowfire Pillar's max cast distance is increased by 25%. You can reduce the cooldown time of it by 20%, or, again before, more shield pen. Now, like I said, I go cooldown time, so that's the one I always pick. Cast distance can be useful, but I'm trying to dish out as much damage as often as possible, so I need those cooldowns. Final level, level 10. Your level 12 mutation is Pillar Storm. Activating your ultimate places a Shadowfire Pillar under each nearby enemy battleborn within range. Range of what? The ultimate, basically. It is awesome skill. Can completely change a team fight scenario if you guys are all mixed up in it together, like in the Center Thralls or something like that. Can really change the game for your team by having that mutation on. I like to use that one a lot. I think it's very, very good. The Reign of Chaos is what I would go otherwise, in which your ultimate instantly resets your Shadowfire Pillar's cooldown. Like I said, I'm all about getting cooldowns. Cooldown, cooldown, cooldowns. So either get the Reign of Chaos or Pillar Storm if you've got it. Alright, so that concludes her mutations. I'll take a look at her gear a little bit and explain what I go with her and why. So here's my Orendi page. The main things you want to focus on is cooldown time and skill damage. That's it. If you can get those, you're golden. So I have here, I got lucky and I got this rare stopwatch here for cooldown time. Gives even more cooldown while all my skills are on cooldown, which is awesome. Try to stack as much of that as possible because you want your skills up and available for use constantly. More often they're up, more damage you're dealing. Go cooldown time with Orendi. That's a no-brainer, like you would with any mage. I put a shard generator on there. The thing I like about this one is it gives skill damage. So if you have one that gives skill damage, or any kind of items that give skill damage that you like, if you want more survivability, with like a tank item or something like that, throw some skill damage in there. It helps her out a lot. And then I usually just go her legendary as well because it also gives you some skill damage, a little bit of shield strength, and then the awesome extra damage on a Shadowfire Pillar, which is always great to nab on someone. Alright guys, well that concludes the gear and mutations for Orendi. and this week's episode of Drunk Discount Guides. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'll be going over a little bit of gameplay as well to explain a few other things to you guys in just a moment. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Alright guys, there's a little bit more gameplay that I wanted to talk about with Orendi really quick. Just a few little tricks that I like to do with her sometimes. So your nullify normally jumps you back, as you may know. But you can also use that to advance forward. Now you can get the mutation that allows you to use nullify and you'll be propelled in the direction that you're moving. But normally I don't go with that one. So if I'm trying to advance in this direction but I want to use nullify for that, I kind of do a little twist in the air as I do it. So basically what you do is, as you're running, you jump up, and then in the air you turn and face your back towards the direction you want to move. You activate nullify, and then as you're being propelled forward, you turn back around again to face that way. So you kind of do a 360 in the air. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So if you're using nullify and you're running, you just jump, turn, activate nullify, turn again, and there you go. It's a way you can use nullify to propel yourself forward without having to get that mutation. It takes a little bit of work to get right, but after a while you'll get used to it, and then that way you won't even need to use that mutation at all anymore. You just get to do some neat little tricks with Orendi instead. So that's something I just kind of wanted to show off really quick to you guys. If anybody's tried that before or not, give it a whirl. It's pretty fun and pretty awesome. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please stay tuned for my next Drunk Discount Guides. Maybe even a couple of gameplay videos, something in the near future as well. See you next time.